Something didn't feel right. For Izuku, his heart was beating uncontrollably under his armor. He waited outside with the other heroes. The time for the raid was set to begin. They had only learned just the day before. Of course, under normal circumstances, they would have waited longer, planned things out further. But everyone involved felt like the element of surprise was on their side. Thanks to Izuku placing the tracker on Eri, they thought that this was the opportune time, their best chance to strike, take out the Shie Hassaikai, take out the League of Villains, swipe out the whole nest of villains in one fell swoop, of crushing evil once and for all, and restoring the world to a time of peace. It was that simple. That's all they had to do. The time just seemed to flow like molasses. Everyone just twitching and waiting, knowing that the second they got the word, there was no turning back. It felt like forever, like waiting for the pen to drop, like you were sitting on the edge, not knowing when the final crescendo was going to begin. All of the heroes, the police force, everyone waited with bated breath, knowing what was to come. And yet, in spite of all of that, when it actually happens, in that moment, when that rush, when that adrenaline hits you, it almost feels as though the whole world moves in slow motion. None of the heroes gave the order. No one even made the call. And yet, just a few blocks down from them, a large fiery explosion could be heard. The heroes had no idea what had caused it. A gas leak? A villain attack? But why here? Why now? They saw someone flying in the sky, as if they were on a glider. Being the one closest there, Pravita would go swinging towards the incident. The hero known as Spider-Man, coming face to face with the Hobgoblin. Without any warning, the Shie Hassaikai would strike. One of their members, having the ability to grow in large size, would now be held by Ryuko along with her team. With no time to waste, the heroes would go charging inside of the compound. Sir Night-Eye had worry. Did they already know they were coming? But how could that even be possible? They had the element of surprise. There was no point in dwelling about it now. No point in trying to worry. The only thing they could do was move forward. The heroes would race inside of the compound. Mirio almost spearheading the charge, moving with his permeation quirk ahead of everyone. Izuku following close behind, and so on and so forth. But at every turn, floods of villains and Yakuza members were waiting for them. Fights were breaking off all over immediately. Kirishima and Fat Gum got held up by Rappa and Tengai. Takami would get held up by another group of the Shie Hassaikai. Melissa would find herself encountering an old foe. From the battle with All for One, Izuku would think, it was Ghost. But why was she here? Of course, she hadn't been captured, but still, to think she had made a comeback. Melissa would get knocked into another room, with the walls contorting and changing, as she stood back on her feet, face to face with Ghost. I hope I didn't harm the princess none. Wakey, wakey, you and I have business to discuss. What? Who are you? Aw, you don't remember me? Why am I not surprised? You can't remember anyone when it's not worth your time now, is it? What? Ghost would remove her mask, and Melissa recognized who it was immediately. Ava? Ava, yeah, it's me. Oh, what's the matter? You kill someone's parents and you don't even have time to remember the face of the person you screwed over? No matter. I'm even over all of that. But you and I, we've got business to attend to. So I hope you're not in a rush. The heroes would continue moving through the compound respectfully. Izuku and Momo moving side by side. Momo using the power of One for All to keep up with Izuku and Mirio, smashing through the walls respectively while Mirio phased through them. Izuku blasting with his repulsor rays. They continued moving deeper and deeper underground, Overhaul healing the commotion from above. It's just like he said. Man, these guys are predictable. What do we do now? Well, we keep moving. Remember, the boss says he wants him alive. Yeah, but that's gonna be easier said than done. You know who we're dealing with, right? A kid in a suit of armor who has way too much time and money on his hands. You have your orders and your instructions. He's not as hard to take down as you might think. Besides, worst comes to worst, I'll just step in and crush him. The heroes would continue their descent inside of the compound, not wasting any time as they were trying to get to Eerie as quickly as possible. Mirio would ultimately move on ahead of all of them, eventually being the first one to get to where the villains were, as Mirio had managed to catch up to them. I'm sorry, but I'm gonna have to ask you to stop here. I'll be taking the girl now. Is that right? You didn't seem so heroic the last time we met, but this time you're gonna make a difference. What's the matter, huh? You learned the truth and now you feel like you have to play hero? No one's playing here. No, you're all playing. To you, this is nothing but a sick, twisted game that you all probably get off on. Well, kid, unfortunately for you, you're about to learn a very painful and short lesson. A lesson that unfortunately you're not going to live to truly marinate on its teachings. You see, this world doesn't reward fools. And if you go around dressed up as a hero has been, then you are without a shadow of a doubt the greatest of all fools. But you can take solace in that, because after all, these tunnels, they're going to be your grave. Mirio would have no choice but to fend off against the villains on his own. The likes of Overhaul, Nemoto, Death Dealer, and Madame Mask. Deku and Momo were racing as fast as they could to get up to him. Aizawa had to deal with one of the villains who could shapeshift with the walls, although thankfully with Rocklock's help, they were able to stun and keep him in place, although even he would suffer some serious wounds in the result, as Toga and Twice were now making moves of their own. In the meantime, inside of an open hall under the tunneled catacombs, Mirio fought against the villains all on his own. Some quirk users and some not, and yet all the same, they were dangerous. Trying to protect Eerie while also fending off against all of the villains was a lot easier said than done. Mirio had just barely managed to get Eerie out of harm's way. However, as quick as he was with his quirk, Death Dealer was just a little faster. He felt a kunai bury into his left shoulder blade, He could feel his arm going numb. He yelled out in pain as he quickly used permeation as the blade fell to the ground. So, even the strongest of quirk users, even the strongest of quirks, they all have a weakness at some point, in some shape, way, form, or another. You're pretty fast with your tricks, kid, but you're not fast enough. The villains would gang up on Mirio. Mirio trying his best to evade is all he could do. Overhaul, using his quirk, was able to cause jagged spikes to appear from the ground, from the ceiling, from the side walls, managing to stab him a few times. Death Dealer continued shooting out the blades, cutting him in every way possible. Madame Mask taking her shots whenever she could. Mirio was thankfully able to avoid Memento using the quirk erasing bullet, but still, he felt like he was spinning his wheels at this point. He wasn't sure how much longer he could keep this up. Just when he felt like he was at his end, one of the side walls would burst open. Izuku came flying in immediately, shooting one repulsor ray on stun, taking out Death Dealer. Madame Mask would unload her gun onto Izuku, who was easily able to fend it off, as he went charging towards Overhaul, who created a wall for defense before launching a counter-strike of his own. As Momo would come in as well, she would look to Mirio, making sure he was alright. However, Memento would shoot one of the quirk erasing bullets. With Mirio only having a split second to think, he pushed Momo out of the way as he took the hit of the attack. Eri could only watch as the heroes battled desperately against the villains. With them slowly getting back to their feet, they had to fend off against them, Momo and Izuku on their own. Izuku would try to hold on, battling against Overhaul, allowing Momo to deal with the rest. But even that was easier said than done, because shortly after, Ghost would join them. She had gotten what she had come for. Now, the odds were stacked against them even further. Overhaul had more and more minions flooding inside of the cave, attacking them at every which way, with any type of quirk or weapon they could get their hands on. It was an ambush, a timely one at that. The few times that Izuku and Overhaul traded blows, he had managed to disintegrate some of his armor over and over again. Momo and Izuku stood back to back, Izuku's armor having taken severe damage, and Momo, even as she used the power of One for All, she could feel herself getting worse. She felt as if her heart, as if it were going to cave in. She felt like she was on fire, the sweat just pouring from her forehead. "Are you alright, Momo?" "I'm fine. We just have to hold them off just a little longer." The two would continue to fight desperately, to fend off against the horde of villains. But even they found themselves overwhelmed. Half of Izuku's chest plate was completely destroyed by Overhaul, leaving him exposed. Momo tried her best to fend off against the villains, taking out a great deal of them. She created nanite arms, using them to try to restrain and to take out as many of the villains as possible. As she did so, she left herself exposed, if only for a moment, as one of them threw a bomb. Seeing this, Izuku would shield Momo, but doing so left him completely exposed. The blast was powerful, so powerful in fact, that it knocked both Momo and Izuku clean across the room. Izuku's head bounced in his own helmet, giving him a massive concussion, knocking him out cold. Momo was left all on her own. She was the only one conscious, the only one left standing. Eri was close to them. Using the power of One for All, she created a large gust of wind, knocking back all of her opponents, long enough to punch the ground under them and to jump in with Izuku and Eri. Izuku was unconscious as Eri sat next to him. There was another level, but it wouldn't take long before the villains would follow them even down there. Momo knew she didn't have much time. Using her strength, she managed to remove the face mask to Izuku's helmet. As she looked at him and could hear what was coming, she knew if she died or lost her quirk, then the power of One for All would be gone forever. She wasn't sure if the power would be enough to save him, to save his life. But still, it was better than nothing. With tears welling in her eyes, she looked down upon him one final time. I love you, Izuku. She leaned down and kissed him, kissing him with all of her might. This was her recognition, the transfer, if you will. Even though it wasn't in the most wholesome of circumstances, a kiss could count as a transfer of DNA, as it's often called, swapping saliva. This was her transfer. She was willingly giving up One for All, giving it up for Izuku. As she pulled away, the wall would cave in as Overhaul and his forces now had her surrounded. You should just give up now. There's no point in resisting. Momo turned back with a fierce look of determination as she stood on her feet. As long as I'm still breathing, I'm not out of this. Overhaul stood at the ready, his men having their guns trained directly on her. Don't kill Eri and don't kill the boy in the damaged armor. We need them. As for the girl, I don't care what you do. Take her out. Using the vestige of One for All, Momo would smile. If this is my only chance to go all out, then I'm gonna make you remember me. One for All. Overflow. 100%! Everyone watched as the glow would form around Momo as she led a final charge against Overhaul and the Shie Hasaikai. Izuku found himself in a deep and dark sleep. He didn't know where he was. All he knew was that he found himself in a void. He felt like he could hear voices. He could feel the emotions of those long since passed. But it felt as though it only lasted for a moment, because soon he found himself waking up, his eyes slowly opening. He could feel something on his chest, inside of his chest. He looked down to see that there were wires strewn out all across the table, all of them connecting inside of his chest. Well, it is good to see that you are back in the world of the living, Mr. Midoriya. I almost thought we lost you. What? Take it easy. It was definitely a piece of work. I'll admit, I'm not nearly as creative as you are. After all, you created some hefty technology. But I like to think that this will do in saving your life. Make sure that none of the wires come out, otherwise it could be fatal. What's going on? It seems we find ourselves in the belly of the beast. But come now, you will need your strength. And do try to hold your composure. Who are you? I am Dr. Ho Hinson. It is an honor to meet you. It seems we have ourselves quite the predicament. The guards would see that Izuku had awoken, making sure that he could carry the device that was now keeping him alive. They made their way down the hall. It felt like eternity, but eventually they came to the place where they needed to be. Izuku could hardly stand. How long had he been out for? He knew he was hungry, thirsty as all hell. His legs were barely holding him up. As they came to a room, a young man sitting at a table, dressed properly, dignified, his hair combed over. Izuku recognized who it was immediately. Aoyama! Izuku, I'm happy that you were able to recover. You had me worried there for a moment. Please, have a seat. Aoyama, what's going on? I've invited you, silly. No point in asking. You're not in any country, nowhere like that. This is a private island of mine. Had to use and pull a lot of strings just to get it, but I like to think that it all worked out for the best. Overhaul would join them in the room, along with the likes of Death Dealer, the Hobgoblin, Madam Mask, and Ghost. So you're all working together? But we thought what? You thought that I was working with All for One. Trust me, it was not by choice. Can I tell you a story? It's the story of a boy. A boy who was raised in a family of cowards. They felt as though their son would be ostracized if he didn't have a quirk of his own. That he wouldn't be normal, that he wouldn't fit in. Of course, they never once asked the boy what he wanted. Did he even want to be a hero? No, but what did it matter to them? It was all about keeping up an image, to not be viewed as the parents of a freak. So what do the parents do? They tried all sorts of ways, all sorts of avenues, but eventually they found themselves knocking on the door of the devil himself. And they made a deal on their child's behalf. But unfortunately, it meant serving the devil himself. And the child, who never had a say in anything, now found himself in the belly of the beast. My entire life, I've had to work and serve under that bastard All for One. He gave me the quirk naval laser. Do you know how much it hurts to feel as if you're being eaten away from the inside? And not just that, but to be turned into a bomb. It's hard to sleep. Sometimes I feel my own heartbeat ticking in my ears. I feel as if it's counting down to the moment where it all goes boom. But I managed to get in contact with Chisaki here. He truly came across something astounding. These bullets, quirk erasing bullets, I was able to use what was inside and remove all quirk factor from my body. Best sleep I've had in years. But that wasn't enough. No. Aoyama, why are you doing this? All for One's gone. You're free. I'm not free. Freedom would have been if you had killed the bastard, but you didn't. You let him live, and thus you've doomed the entire world, but no matter, because I'm the one that's going to save it. You see, these bullets, they're impressive, but I think we could do so much better. We could go so higher, so much bigger. Instead of taking out quirks one bullet at a time, I have the much more appealing solution. Take out all quirks in one fell swoop. The girl, your intellects, and all the other scientists I've been able to gather around the world here, I believe pulling them all together, it will lead me to what I desire most. And that is a world free from quirks. And if they want their precious powers back, they'll have to come to us. We will have the ultimate power. But more so, I'm going to rid this world of everything that made my life a living hell. I started with my parents. Honestly, you should have seen the look on their faces. They were so pathetic. The way they groveled and begged for their lives, it was truly astounding. I question how they even managed to live as long as they did anyway. But then there was silence. Sweet, sweet silence. You're insane. You killed your own. When you think about what they did, they tried to kill me first. I just beat them to the punch. Anyone who would have their child subjected to this, can you even call them human? Eerie. Where? She's fine. Don't worry, it's all humane. You don't have to see the ugliness. And besides, it doesn't matter. And I mean, she gets torn to pieces, but it's amazing how you can just put it all back together from the lumps of... Izuku wanted to reach over the table, but he didn't have the strength to. Even when he tried to make the leap, he just fell over to the ground as the doctor would have to pick him back up. A few in the room were ready to draw their weapons, but Aoyama stopped them. It's fine, he can't do anything. Without that armor, he's nothing. Just like people without a quirk. You take away what makes someone special the most, and what are they left with? They're reduced to this, a pathetic state of existence. Izuku, I bear no ill will against you personally. I just merely need your intellect to get what I want. And what I want is a new world. A world made in my image. And you're the only one that can gift me that. Now, will you please cooperate with me? I'll make sure you have the proper accommodations as one fellow student to another. I'll never. Before you say anything, I think I need to truly show you the gravity of the situation. Aoyama would snap his fingers and the door would open as they carried a boy inside. A boy whose mouth was gagged and his arms were tied behind his back. Shinso! Izuku didn't know why Shinso was here. He thought he was doing work studies. Your friend here has been getting in the way for some time. Actually almost managed to track me down, but fortunately he wasn't fast enough. You two are good friends, right? Shinso, Izuku? What are you doing? Aoyama reached into his coat pocket as he pulled out a gun and held it to the back of Shinso's head. Wait. Don't. Shinso? Look Izuku right in the eye. Look at him. Shinso looked up to Izuku as Aoyama removed the gag from his mouth. What would you like to say to Midoriya? Shinso! It's okay. I promise. It's alright, Izuku. Don't give in, alright? Don't stop fighting. Remember, we go beyond the pain. We go plus. Before he had a chance to finish his sentence, Shinso lied on the ground, the smoke still bellowing from the nozzle of the pistol. The blood splattered on Izuku's face. I'm sorry I had to do that, but I need you to understand. That's just a start. Now, if I have to go to UA, march down the halls, and put a bullet in every single one of your friends' heads, until you do as I say, I will do that. If I have to track down your mother, Izuku, drag her out into the streets, and do what must be done, I will do that. I'm trying to make a better world, a brighter one, where you and I, where we can be special. After all, you were quirkless and you managed to rise up. And well, I think it's time we even the playing field, don't you think? Let this be the first and last death that either of us have to share in. Because this is just as much on you as it is on me. His blood is on your hands. I'm gonna kill you, Izuku said to Aoyama. When this is over, I'm going to kill you. I know, Izuku, I know. Give him some time to rest, but tomorrow morning I want him in the workshop. Understood, sir. Aoyama exited out of the room, hearing the screams of Izuku. I'm gonna kill you! You bastard! You hear me? Aoyama! Aoyama! I'm gonna kill you! When I get out here, let me go! I'm gonna kill you! Aoyama! Aoyama! In these times, a hero ponders that question. How can one truly be a hero if you can't save the life of those who matter the most to you? This concludes My Hero Academia Armored Adventures. What if Deku was Iron Man? Season 2, Part 3. As always, if you enjoyed today's video, then please don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, share, and hit that bell for post notifications so you can stay up to date on everything that is Power Core Productions and Podcastings that has to come out now and in the future. Stay tuned tomorrow afternoon as we continue What If Deku Was Iron Man, My Hero Academia Armored Adventures, Season 2, Part 4. But anyway, that's going to do it for the end of today's video. I'm Javon Harrington with Power Core Productions and Podcastings. Signing off, and I'll see you next time.